So we got wood, we got leather. It's a tool tote, right? So I want to go over one of my favorite projects of all time. Feels like I say that a lot, but this really is. I mean, I made this tool tote, 6 years ago, something like that. And it's one of those things that I'm constantly using. I'm constantly reaching for it. And the design is great. It is a very simple design, yet highly effective. So I was thinking, if you're looking for a project to get into woodworking and leatherworking, combining the two, something that you're going to get a lot of use out of, this is an excellent project for that. When you look at this, it's really modeled upon one of those traditional wooden totes. So, one of those garden totes, very similar except for it has wood on the sides and at the bottom. Now, the one problem with those is that they're kind of bulky, they're kind of heavy, they don't actually hold that much because they are pretty straight, and once you put stuff in, it gets really cramped really quickly. And that was one of the reasons why I was thinking leather might actually be a much better choice for this type of tote, because you get that lightness and you get this kind of flexibility where you can kind of put things in a different way. So we have 2 pieces of wood, one on each side, a dowel in the middle, and 1 piece of leather that wraps around. So to start off with, you need wood, right? I would use whatever wood you have on hand. This is white oak, really nice. Not necessary. Okay, so what you need here is basically a shape where you have a flat bottom and then some version of this and a hole in the middle that mimics the size of your dowel, right? If you don't have a dowel and you don't want to use too thin of a dowel, that would be uncomfortable to hold on to. If you use a regular piece of wood, you can just make a different shaped size hole. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's all about just wood fitting together. And you create not 1 but 2 of these identical pieces. This is about 3/4 of an inch thick. Pretty good thickness for a tool tote. Now for the leather here, this is next here. I first was going to use 1 piece of leather. Right, this is veg tanned leather. I used like a medium weight, and I wanted to stain it so that it would contrast nicely with the oak. Started staining the shiny side. Leather has 2 sides, right? So you have the kind of the shiny, smooth side, and you have the suede side that is like fuzzy. So I stained this side, looked great. Started staining the suede side. Didn't look so great, very blotchy. And I mean, suede side just takes a ton of stain. If you actually want to dye the suede side of leather, you might as well just dip it in stain. It's not really worth it. Now, this got me thinking that it wouldn't be a bad idea to double this leather up. A little extravagant, I know, but since it's been such a great piece, I mean, I think it was a good call. So what I did was just to cut an identical piece of leather and then glue the 2 pieces together, right? Now the shape here, slightly curved, you see? Slightly curved side. And the reason for that is, imagine if it was just straight, it would really limit how easily you could move in and out of here. Now with this slight curve here, it really is a lot easier to grab things in and out, put things in. Of course, you don't want to make it too far down because you actually want it to be functional. You want it to hold things, right? So this has been a good curve level. So how do you glue them together? Well, I used a water-based contact cement, like for leatherworking. You could use like oil-based, although that does tend to smell a lot. You probably want to do that outdoors, but whatever works. So connect the 2 together. You have 2 pieces of leather, or you have 1 piece of leather, right? Now you could leave it like that, but this is a piece that's going to be used a lot, right? You're going to like carry this and move it, and you don't want it to come apart over time. Now it's going to be connected to the wood here and around, so you don't have to be concerned about these sides. But for these sides here, I wanted to do some stitching. And you can do any stitch you want. You want, of course, ahead of time to punch holes into where you're going to do your stitches. This is a heavy, thick piece of leather at this point. I just kind of made this stitch playing around. I'm sure there's an official name for it, right? This happens all the time. You think you invent something, you did not invent anything. It exists already, I'm sure. But it's a nice stitch. You can of course do any stitch that you want to hold the two pieces together, just like as an extra safety precaution. And as always, when I sew in leather, I like to use waxed thread. Works a lot better. It's also thicker, more substantial. Would highly recommend that. Plus, it's just kind of soothing and fun to sit there and stitch leather together. Now, in terms of the tacks here, before putting them into the wood, you want to mark out the pieces here again, either punch the leather or drill holes, and drill some holes into the wood. You don't want to crack the wood, right? You also, however, want to make sure you don't go in too far or too big of a bit, because then you won't have any grip to go into. So just like all this kind of prep work that ensures that you're going to get a good result, that these are going to stick into the wood, that the wood isn't going to crack. Now, one slightly tricky thing here is connecting the leather to the wood. You have a pretty thick piece of leather at this point, and you want to get a really snug fit here. So you actually require a little bit of like force to get everything in place. And this is where clamps are a really good idea. You put your glue down, you try to get them in place, and you get clamps to hold it in place. And you can always start stitching like one side before moving on to the other sides to get one thing, like one side straight in. Because leather can be kind of finicky and hard to deal with, to maneuver. It's not always that easy. Now for the bottom here, I'm actually using a different, these are regular tacks right here, but this is more of an upholstery tack, or whatever you want to call it. It has this kind of rounded feel to it. I think I did not have enough to put them everywhere. Either way, I think they are perfect for the bottom. They're kind of large, visually large too, so I think these actually look really good up here. They barely show, but for the bottom here, they're really great, because I was concerned that one of these things might actually kind of scuff a tabletop, because they are a little bit sharp. And that's what I was thinking, that a rounded surface at the bottom would be really great, because they're very smooth. And another thing I like about that, unintended bonus, is that they actually raise the piece up a little bit, and it's always a good idea to have a little bit of a space between the surface and whatever your thing is. Little legs, if you will. And not very big ones, but it raises it up just a little bit. And this has worked out really good. In terms of finishing, I'm using our wax polish on both the wood and the leather. I like to use our mineral oil wax polish for that, because it works great on wood and on leather. And as always with wax polish, might be a good idea to, reapply every now and then, although I don't think I actually have. I think it's just, I think it's been 6 years. I should probably give this a bit of a cleaning. If you are concerned, you can burnish the edges. I just did a little bit of filing here. You can make it cleaner. However, when I look at this piece, what I am concerned about is I wanted a utilitarian piece that was really functional, so that was really light and easy to move around, and that's what I've got here. So, highly recommend this. It's been a really great project, one that I constantly reach for. If I am taking like tools, whatever, inside the house to put up, picture frame, furniture, that kind of thing, this is what I grab. If I want to move tools like outside in the car, this is what I take. I transport other things in here too. It's just like my go-to thing that I always grab whenever I want to move things from one place to another, or even organize stuff in the shop sometimes. A little tip for a project: if you would like to get into leather work, you would like to do woodwork, you want to combine the two, and you want to create something really practical. There are not that many parts to this. There's literally like 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that this is made up of. Obviously needs a decent piece of leather. Can use 1, can use 2, either way. So yeah, I think that is about it. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I want to say thanks to our patrons for supporting the channel. If you want to pick up a wax polish, you can check out our shop. We handcraft all of our products in-house, so I'll put a link to that. If you're curious about more leather and wood ideas, I just had a live stream where I went over all about getting into leatherworking when you're doing woodworking, what to think about, tools needed, all of that stuff. Otherwise, thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you soon. See how light? Got some stuff in here, but it's so light. You can just, yeah, a good size this too. Of course you could make an even larger size to hold larger things, or a smaller size for mini things. Yeah.